This video is proudly brought to you by the On 3 Legs VIPs, very important photographers. If you'd like to become an On 3 Legs VIP, head to patreon.com/on3legs to learn more. In this video, I thought what I'd do is give you my thoughts on the Nikon D850. I've been shooting with this bad boy now for a little over 6 months. I've got thousands of images on it, and I thought I would share my experience, I guess, the pros and cons of this camera, and what it is I'm enjoying about it, more so than anything else, because there's not a lot that I don't enjoy about it, but there are some things I really think are good. Nikon should have probably done it on the previous models, but this camera is really nice to use, and I've taken a few notes on my phone, and I'll talk to you about that. Now, before I do jump into the detail of what I think is good about what they've done, I do from time to time get asked, is it worth upgrading? Well, only you can answer that question depending on what your needs are. I'm a pretty prolific landscape shooter. I shoot a lot, so to me it's worthwhile upgrading to get these user functions. If you're cashed up and you enjoy your photography, then why not? Is it better than the D810? That's the other question I get, and to me that's just a no-brainer. Of course it is. They're not going to make a new camera 3 years later that's worse than the previous release. It just doesn't happen. So yes, it is better than the D810, and yes, it's worthwhile upgrading if you're looking to get something that's a little bit more user-friendly, higher pixels, and a few extra features. Let's talk about them. So the first thing I'll talk about is the touchscreen. So it's something that I think is underrated on cameras, but the touchscreen makes your workflow so much more efficient when you're out in the field, and I'm all about things being easy. And so I love the touchscreen for looking at images and checking focus. I hate it for the touch focus and the touch shutter release. I don't think that's great at all. It is too finicky, and it goes off when you don't want it to. You'll just be trying to adjust something, and all of a sudden you're taking photos. So I've switched those features off. However, when I've taken an image, if I want to check focus, you can just pinch and zoom like on a smartphone or a tablet, and you can zoom right in and you get to see that detail. Have I got the image sharp, yes or no? And it's very easy to see. The other thing is that you can scroll through left and right like you can on a smartphone to go through your images and double check everything before you're done with your shoot. And I think that's a great feature. It has made things a little bit easier. Whilst we're on the touch screen, or on the screen, one of the things that surprised me after shooting with the D810 was how much better this screen is. And I guess it's got something to do with the resolution of the screen itself, the number of pixels or dots per inch, or whatever it is they use to describe how good these are. Like I said, this is not going to be a technical review, by the way. But when I am zooming in to look at the detail, it is surprisingly clear and amazing on this screen. So it's making it really easy to be able to go in, look close up at my images, and see what has worked well. And whether or not I've got the focus. Another benefit of the screen is that they finally put in a screen that tilts. And so, the older I get, the harder it is to get down low and crouch. So when I'm shooting low, and I do a lot, I like to put my camera down low a fair bit, I can flip the screen up, and that gives me that. Now, I use live view most of the time for my photography. I rarely look inside here unless it's bright sunlight and it's hard to see the screen. Then I'll use the optical viewfinder, but I use live view, I reckon, 90% of the time. So it's really handy that it does that. I just wish that on the portrait they did it so it would flip up that way, but maybe on the next release. maybe they're saving some features for next time. But once again, pretty underrated feature, I think. Really works well. All right, next thing is the backlit buttons. I actually, I'm pretty good at memorizing all the buttons, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Nikons, but with the on-off switch, if you flick it backwards, it actually turns the light on the top, and on this model here, it actually lights these buttons here. Now, for me, I'm pretty good at memorizing where all my buttons are. It is handy to be able to confirm it with the light on, but I ran a workshop the other night in Sydney doing some night photography, and 2 of the participants had these, and helping them to see the buttons was easy. You just turn the light on. I just reached up, I put the on-off button back into that spring position, and it turned the lights on. It was really good. I don't think you can ever underestimate being able to see what you can do. So that was a really good feature, and I think that's something that should be on all cameras. I don't know why it isn't. The downside, or the thing that I think they did that's not good about it, was they didn't light this side. The other side. They only lit one side, so I don't understand why. It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, all right. Let's get on to image quality, which is probably something that people are wondering about. Is the image quality better than the D810? Yes, it is. It's a 46 megapixel sensor, 46 megapixel sensor. And of course, that's going to mean that you've got more pixels crammed into this sensor, and image quality is going to improve as a result. So yes, the image quality is good. It's also got a backlit illuminated sensor. Now, that's supposed to improve its low light ability. I actually find it very similar to the D810. So, from a noise point of view, I don't think that has improved, but I think that's a byproduct of the bigger sensor. So I think because of the bigger sensor, the backlit illuminated sensor compensates for the fact that it is a bigger sensor, and so you still see sort of the same amount of noise in your images. What I will say about it that surprised me, and maybe you saw the vlog a few months ago where I went down to Kiama and I shot directly into the sun, and I didn't think I got the shot. I don't think the D810 would have done it, and that was from my experience. I'd shot with the D810 for 3 years, and when I shot with this, I shot directly in the sun. I didn't think I'd have the shot. When I got it back on the computer, I was amazed at how much of the detail I was able to bring back out. So I think the dynamic range on this is slightly better than the D810. I wouldn't say it's worlds apart, but it certainly does seem to be better. Another big plus for me, and this is something that, it's not a big issue because you can buy spare batteries, but this new battery that they've got in this, which is this grey one, what is the ENL15A that comes with this, it seems to last forever. It's a stock and good battery. It just seems to go on and on and on. So, whatever they've done with that battery is a good thing. I'll be buying a couple more of those, I think, once my other ones wear out. I have got a stack of the old ones. That works really, really well. And then the final thing that I think they've really improved is the autofocusing. Now, I quite often use the live view when I'm focusing, particularly at night. My technique is that I will put it into manual focus, I'll put live view on, I will go down to my smallest aperture, which is the widest opening. I will then use the live view, I'll zoom right in with the magnifying glass, and I will adjust the focus. And this screen is really, really good for that. But one thing, and I think I've learned to do that because the D810 was not very good at focusing in low light. This, on the other hand, seems to be pretty good at focusing in low light. It's certainly better than the D810, and that was a good improvement. So I'm pretty impressed with the way that it does that. The final thing that I think is a good feature that I haven't really had a good chance to play with, but I'm going to be doing some macro over the next month or so, is the focus stacking. And that's where it takes multiple shots. I've done a few of them, but I haven't really got my teeth stuck into using it as a feature and learning about it. That's one of my projects for over Christmas. But all in all, I think the camera's really good. A couple of the other things, like at the back here, these two buttons can be programmed for 2 separate focus modes now. So for a landscape shooter like myself, I can have single point autofocus on this one here, back button focus, and this one here I can have like 3D tracking or multi-point focus on that button program. So I no longer have to worry about changing my autofocus settings when I switch lenses and go from shooting landscape to people or wildlife. Things like that. I mean, of course, I've always had the programmable buttons. We've lost the flash on top, but don't really care. Never really used it anyway. Besides that, everything is pretty much the same. I think overall the camera itself is really, really good. So if you've got any questions, feel free to pop them down below in the comments. More than happy to answer your questions about the Nikon D850. If you're thinking about upgrading and you've got the D800 or the D700, it's a no-brainer. If you've got the D810, then you'd really want to know that those features were important to you to be able to go to that. If you're not printing your photos, the extra 10 megapixels is not going to make a huge difference to your life, but it's certainly, you get more detail. The benefit is you can crop an image and still have a huge amount of detail left. All right, so that's it for this week's video. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you give it the thumbs up. If you haven't already, consider subscribing. Lots more content like this to come. And make sure you hit that notification bell, and that way you'll never ever miss out on an episode. Alrighty, well that's it from me. Until next time, get out there and take some photos. Cheerio.